Yom Beis, and the Gemara just finished the subject about the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan about Lishkas Bahedrin if it's Chayv and Mezuzah, and the Gemara came out that the machlokes was if a deal about Korcha Shmadira or not. The fact that he has to be there is not willingly, it's not voluntary. Of course, he could resign from being a Kohen Gadol, but as long as he's a Kohen Gadol, that's the obligation. He must be mafrishin, and it doesn't look kavod that it's the kind of call it house arrest on the Kohen Gadol, not for the Beis Hamikdash, not for the Kohen Gadol, not for the Avoda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, that a deal about Korcha Lo Shmadira, and it's not Chayv in a mezuzah, you put a mezuzah anyway in Rabbanan in order that it should look like it's regular living. But according to Rabbanan, deal about Korcha Shmadira, and even if it's against his will, he doesn't want to be there, also be Chayv mezuzah anyway. So the fact that it's a mezuzah over there is the Raisa. Everybody holds that the Lishkas Bahedrin had a mezuzah. According to Rabbanan, it's the Raisa, because even though it's Baal Korcha, still he has to have a mezuzah. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, he'll be potter only because of the covet of the situation. So that's why they say with Rabbanan he should have a mezuzah. People shouldn't think that he's locked up. Just to point out, it seems to be passing like the Rabbanan that Dir Baal Korcha Ish Madira, so therefore comes out that the jail would have with mamash extreme Dir Baal Korcha also will be chayv in the mezuzah. The Gemara on the bottom line, Man Tan Lad Tan Rabbanan. Who's the author of the following brisa? Now that we have machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan about Lishkas Bahedrin, if it's the brisa of the Rabbanan, the Gemara thinks that there's ramifications about the following brisa. It says in the brisa, Kol Hashem Shayu Shem L'Hayil Lahem Mezuzah. All the gates. Now we're talking about the gates. All the gates, not the Lishkas Bahedrin, but the gates, not the chambers, but all the gates that were in the Beis Hamikdash. It said all of them didn't have mezuzah. This same way that it said all the Leshachos didn't have, all the chambers didn't have. Here it says also the Sha'arim didn't have. Chutz Mishar Nikanor, the eastern gate, and the Beis Hamikdash, the entrance from the eastern side, which was the main gate to come into the courtyard. So that is Shar Nikanor. We had that mentioned in Shkolim, I think. And the reason why this gate does need a mezuzah is because it leads into the courtyard, which over there is the chamber of Lishkas Bahedrin. There's the fact that there's a courtyard is not chayv in mezuzah, as we said, everything that's kodesh, which is going to come to today, the Russia, that holiness is not chayv in mezuzah. But the only reason why it's chayv is because there was a mundane living quarter over there, that of the Kohen Gadol. And here it says that not only Lishkas Bahedrin is chayv in mezuzah, but even the gate of the courtyard that leads to that chamber. That's what the brisa says. On this, I think that it's dependent on the machlokes of Yehuda and Rabbanan. Machlokes was if Lishkas Bahedrin itself is chayv with the Raisa and Rabbanan. According to Rabbanan, Lishkas Bahedrin is chayv, even though it's a Dir Baal Korcha, still it's against his will. He must. He's enforced dwelling over there. He must live over there. Still is chayv in the mezuzah with the Raisa. So that the Gemara understands that also the gate that leads to that chamber also is chayv in the mezuzah. But according to Yehuda, even the chamber itself is not chayv with the Raisa, only with Rabbanan. The Gemara thinks that that's not enough reason to say that the gateway leading to that courtyard which has that chamber should also be chayv. That's what the Gemara says in the third line. That seems only goes according to Rabbanan. That is the Raisa in the Lishkas Bahedrin. So then the gateway to that courtyard is also chayv. The Rabbi Yehuda, he guf gzeira b'anan nekom menigzah gzeira l'gzeira. That's the famous expression that you don't make a gzeira l'gzeira. If something itself is only a decree, the rabbinic decree, so you don't have to make a double precaution. You don't have to make a precaution on a precaution. The only reason why you have the Bahedrin itself, that it put him on that list, is only because of a decree. It shouldn't look bad. That looks like he's locked up. So to make a decree upon that also, that also you have to make on the gateway. But the Gemara says, no, it's not difficult. To feel the Rabbi Yehuda, it could even go according to Rabbi Yehuda, that it's all the same. It's not two steps, which here it's very simple to explain, that the same way people, if the chamber of Bahedrin would not have a mezuzah, people would say, why is there no mezuzah? Because the Kohen Gadol is not voluntary living over there. He's against his will. He has to be there. For the same way, they'll say, if there's no mezuzah on the gateway, they'll say, why is there no mezuzah? Oh, it must be because the Kohen Gadol's dwelling is not a real dwelling, because it's against his will. So it's not two steps. It's the same thing. So therefore, the Gemara comes out. That's really the end of the previous sugya, that there wasn't machlokes of Yehuda and Rabbanan if a dwelling enforced dwelling, if it's considered dwelling as far as mezuzah goes or not. Rabbanan says yes, Yehuda says not. But Rabbanan, the Kohen Gadol had to have a mezuzah. But the Gemara says this point is irrelevant. Even if you hold that it's only Rabbanan, you would need Rabbanan also on the gateway that leads to that chamber. And that's where here's really where the end of the sugya is over. That sugya we just learned about, the Lishkas Bahedrin having a mezuzah, here's where it's really over. Once the Gemara came into the halachas of mezuzah, and there's no Masechtas Mezuzah. So the Gemara talks about it a little bit here, about another page or so, that's going to talk about the halachas of Mezuzah. There's Gemara here, there's Gemara in Menachos also. Quite a long sugya over here about halachas of Mezuzah. Tana Rabbanan, B'sharecha. It says in the pasuk, Uchsavtam al mezuzos beisacho b'sharecha, that you should write it on the doorpost of your house and on your gateway. So now the Gemara will talk about gateways. Gateways, not the houses, not the entrance into the house itself, but into the gate. So it says, Echad shari batim, Echad shari chatzeros, Echad shari medinos, Echad shari ayoros, Eish ben chobas mitzvah lamakom, Mishum shenamar, Uchsavtam al mezuzos beisacho b'sharecha. That any kind of gate, a gate into a house, a gate into a courtyard, a gate into a medina, a gate into a city. Rashi seems to say that a medina means a country, and really the order should be first a house, a courtyard, a city, and then a country. And Rashi says you don't usually see countries having a wall around it with a gateway, but Rashi says there are such places. He talks about a certain land, a certain country, Sagar, sometimes some they say that's Hungary, I'm not sure, that had a very big wall around it. Then there was mountains and forests, and there's only one gateway to get in. I don't know if that's what it means, Hungary, but he seems to say that it's a big country. Some say that the word Medina here is less than a city. It's like a neighborhood. You find sometimes that the word Medina does not mean a country. So either way, but it says that any gateway to any kind of a enclosed area, be it a house or a courtyard or a city or even bigger, it would still need a mezuzah. If you have a city that's encircled by a wall, like the old city, and it has a gateway, so you'd have to have a mezuzah on the gateways. Interesting term the Gemara says. The Brisa says it has the obligation of a mitzvah to Hashem. It calls Hashem here Mako. Interesting why it uses the word, very not a usual term to say it's chayv and a mitzvah. It has an obligation, but that's the term that's used over here. I'm sure there's some talk about it, why it expresses itself this way. But the simple pshat of the Brisa is saying that all these gates are chayv and a mezuzah. That's called the sharecha. That's called the gates. Rabbi asked Rav Safra, Hani Abuli de Mechuzah. There's the city called Mechuzah, and the gates is called Abuli. Buli is the Aramaic word for gates. The gates of Mechuzah. Mechuzah is a city, had a wall around it. Rashi says it was mostly Jewish city. My time of Abdullah Rabban and Mezuzah. Why is there no Mezuzah? Why didn't the Chacham take care of the obligation of the Mezuzah, the city to have a Mezuzah? Amalei, so Rav Safra said to Rabbi, Chizuk la'akro dekuba Yudavidi. So we don't have exactly the picture how it looked, but it seems the way Rashi describes it, that the archway that was the entrance into the city it looked like a gateway, but he says that really it was a structure that was holding up the building on top of it. I think the example would be, if everybody knows the vaults that they have towards the end of Tiferes Yisrael, right after where they're building the new shul, Tiferes Yisrael shul. So we have the Roman market. So they have vaults over there, the vaults that they uncovered, and on top of it is the Quarter Cafe. I think it's a very good mashal, maybe the other places also on the road, but that would give that kind of a picture, that it looks as if the thing is that under where people walk is a gateway, but in essence it's a chamber which is made in order to hold up what's on top of it. You might say the other places also probably even better examples, but that's what comes to mind. So he says that even though you see that it looks like a gateway, it's not a gateway. It's a structure which is holding up the building on top of it. So therefore, something which is made to hold up the building is not considered a gateway. This is brought down in halacha. The Akra de Kubi, Akra might mean an arch. Some say Akra means an arch. Kubi is the name of that place over there. And it's only a structure to strengthen that Akra de Kubi. It comes out from this Gemara that a lot of times in the houses, you have things that might look like it's a doorpost, but it's not really a doorpost. It's really a pillar of a house. And just because it extends a little bit, it's bigger than the walls, or it looks maybe like a doorpost, and if you have two of them on either side. But if it wasn't made for a gateway, it's just made to be strengthening the house, to hold the house up, even though things extend here and there, protrudes, that doesn't make it to become a doorway. So that's what the Gemara says. It's not chayv because it was not made as a doorway, it was made as a support to the structure above it, or the ceiling above it, whatever it might be. Amalei, Abai continued asking him, so the simple words of the Gemara seem to be asking a new question, that why does the Akra de Kubi itself, let's say the top floor, why does it not have a mezuzah? And a new question, one question was why does it not have mezuzah on the bottom where people walk through? And the answer was because it's just supporting the top floor. And then the question is, why does the top floor not have a mezuzah? Rashi says, maybe different gears they talk about, that maybe the question is also that maybe the bottom floor should also have a mezuzah because it leads to the Akra de Kubi. but that the Torah needs explanation because once we said that there's no doorpost over there, so it's not chayiv. But in any case, the Gemara is going to say a reason why it is a p'tur, even if there's no heter or no p'tur of being just as a support, there's an issue on the Akar Dekubi. Why is it not chayiv in a mezuzah? Because the Gemara says it was a room. The isbei diva l'shomer means that room on top. I don't know what the main purpose was, but the Gemara says whatever it was, it also served as a room, a living quarters for the Shomer Beis Hasurin. There was a jail over there, and the guard, the warden of the Beis Hasurin, he lived over there, and that's enough reason that it should be chayiv in a mezuzah. So it seems to be a new question. Why was there no mezuzah on that room, which served also as a dwelling quarter for the warden? A shul, even though a shul is not chayiv in a mezuzah, because we say we're going to see soon that kodesh, things that are holy are not chayiv in a mezuzah, even that's not called dwelling. But if there's a shomer who lives there, the chazan, he lives over there, the shamash that we call, so if he lives over there, so it's chayiv in the mezuzah. So here also, the fact that there's a shomer that lives over there, that's enough dwelling that should be chayiv in a mezuzah. So why is no mezuzah not kudukubi? Elam Abaye mishum sakana. So Abaye said really this chayiv mezuzah, and maybe Abaye held that the Gemara, we do paskin like the chizuk, but the Gemara said before at this point about chizuk that we do paskin like that. If it's only a support, it's not really a gateway. It is part of a mezuzah. But Abaye is saying there's another p'tur over here because that's sakana, that it was dangerous for the goyim if they put a mezuzah. It'd be dangerous. Rashi says that they would be choshesh for kshafim, they'd be choshesh for they're doing some kind of sorcery. What are they doing by the gates? Nowadays, you don't have that issue of sorcery. Maybe you have other issues that will be against the law to put a mezuzah, even if in places where the government would not allow to put a mezuzah, even if the city would be mostly Jewish, and according to Rashi, the point is if it's mostly Jewish or not. That's interesting. Rashi, just to point out to Rashi, it says here the fourth line, but Reuben Yisrael. That's Rashi seems to say that it depends if most of the city is Jewish or not. If it is, so then it's chayiv in mezuzah. If not, then not. That's I don't know where she got it from, but that's what he says. So here it says even if it can be chayiv in mezuzah, but if there's a danger, the Gemara is going to soon say about a financial danger, not only a physical danger, so then you putter. And it brings a story that says something about being a p'tor because of danger. The Tanya mezuzah yochad nivdekes pamayim b'shavua b'shal rabba pamayim b'yobel. Here it's not talking about being chayiv in a mezuzah. Here it's talking about checking it. That even if you have a mezuzah up already, but you have to check it that it didn't get ruined. Rashi says stolen or ruined. So you have to check it twice in 7 years. That's when it's a private mezuzah. But if it's a public mezuzah, so then you have to check it twice in 50 years, which is a very long time. And the Gemara continues. Rashi says Rashi says that the continuation now is not connected to the first part of the brisa. The reason why the public mezuzah is only chayiv to be checked twice in 50 years is because something which is public, so it's hard to put the obligation on anybody because everybody says let him do it. If you have to make it too difficult, this way is not too difficult. Once every 25 years or so we'll get somebody to do it. But if it will be more often, even twice in 7 years, then people would shirk the responsibility and let somebody else do it. When it's a person, an individual, you can tell him you must do it, and nobody else to turn to. So that's how Rashi learns the reason, the difference between the private mezuzah and the public mezuzah. But anyway, the brisa continues. This is part of the brisa still. Yehuda Ratana. Ma'aser b'arta ben echad shei botik mezuzahs b'shukla elyon shel sipori. Arta ben, Rashi is not sure what it means. Either it means somebody's name. According to that, you probably take out the word echad. That's artabin, somebody called artabin. Rashi also says it might be a kind of a name of his profession, which we don't know what it is. It's a certain artabin, which I don't know what that is, that was checking mezuzahs in the upper market of Sipori, and an officer found him, and the top, not many men who love zuz, he fined him 1,000 zuz, a more enormous amount of money, because the Gemara doesn't say, but the Gemara Rashi says the reason is because he suspected him of doing some kind of sorcery on the city by the city gates. So even though the Gemara is talking about the Torah, not to have to check the mezuzah, the Rashi seems to say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't have to check it. The Tanakh said check it twice in 50 years, and even that Rabbi Yehuda said maybe not. Others learn a little different than Rashi. Others learn that Rabbi Yehuda is coming to say the reason why you don't have to check it so often. Check it only twice in 50 years because you see that it's dangerous. Not that and not like Rashi says the reason why you don't have to check it so often is because it's hard, because a community thing is could you do the Beishutfi, everyone shirks the responsibility onto somebody else. But he says that Vassus Shalom at the bottom says that this is the goof of the reason, the fact that it's dangerous, so then do it less often. But anyway, what does the Gemara want from this? The same way that is a danger, a penalty from the Goyim, they'll be suspecting that we're doing Kishuv, might be even worse than only monetary issues, might also be physical, who knows? So that's why they said that you putter from a mezuzah. Just like the Brisa said before, it says over here that you putter from checking the mezuzah very often. So also you putter sometimes to put the mezuzah all together. And that's how I explained that Abuli Dim Mechuzah, the Akra, the Kuba, didn't have a mezuzah because it was dangerous. The Master Kasha, why are you concerned with danger? Rabbi Lazar said that the people are on the way to do a mitzvah are not going to be damaged. They're going to be protected by the mitzvah. So what's the problem? Why are you choshesh? So the more answer is we had some psuchim, says on the side, psuchim dafches. There was a sugi over there also. And the Gemara says the same answer over here. That if it's common, here the Gemara says the word kviya. Kviya means that it's fixed. It means that we know that there's a danger. It's not like maybe a danger will come. We know that that's the facts, that the Goyim are upset if the Jews are going to do something by the gates, the city gates. We know that they look with a suspicious eye. So that's enough reason. It's not like maybe something's going to happen. Probably something is going to happen. So therefore, you don't say that there's protection for a mitzvah. You're not allowed to take the chance even for a mitzvah. And he brings a proof that kiviyah zeh kashani. תכסיב ויאמר שמואל לך אלך ושמע שאול בהרגני ויאמר השם אגלס בקר תיקח בידך ואמרת לזבוח להשם בasi. That's talking about that Hashem instructed Shmuel to anoint David. Shaul was the king, and Hashem told Shmuel to anoint David that he should be the king. And Shmuel said, how am I going to go? Shaul's going to find out he's going to kill me. And that means that even though he's doing a mitzvah, but he was scared because of the danger. It means that and Hashem agreed to him that it's dangerous. So I'll make a protection for you. And Hashem said, take a calf and say that you're coming to do a korban to Hashem, and that's why you won't be choshev you're coming for any other ulterior motive. So you see that there's a time that is when as a shliach hazeka, it was expected that Shaul should be suspicious and punish anybody who's going to go against the kingdom. So that was a valid chashash that Shmuel had, and Hashem agreed to him. I'll tell you what to do. That's the end of the Gemara. We learned that there's the gates of Chayv and Mezuzah. There's a p'tur, not only on a gate, on any kind of house. If there's only made for support, so then it's butter. It's not a real gateway. It's just a protrusion by some kind of a support pillar that doesn't, it looks like a gateway, but it's not really. And also, if it's a sakana, even a monetary sakana seems to be, so then you putter from putting a mezuzah. And also the Gemara talking with the source was from being putter from checking the mezuzah. We also found out that you're supposed to check the mezuzah twice every 7 years. If there be a public mezuzah, twice every 50 years. And if there's any sakana involved, then you don't have to. And even though shluchim mitzvayin is okin, but shlich hazeh kashani. That's the end of that sugya, and now we start a new sugya. Tani Rav Kana kamei de Rav Yehuda. Rav Kana is over the following brisa in front of Rav Yehuda, and the brisa is the subject of Beis HaTeven, Beis HaBokar, Beis HaEtzim, Beis HaTzoros. If you have some kind of a storage room, is that chayv and mezuzah? Beis HaTeven means a room where they store a teven, like a barn. Beis HaBokar, a place where the cattle lived. Beis HaEtzim is a woodshed. Beis HaTzoros, some kind of a storehouse. All these things that you don't live there personally, but your belongings are there, either things or animals. Is it chayv and mezuzah or not? So the Brisa says, P'tur min mezuzah. This so far the Brisa says that all of these storage places are not chayv and mezuzah. But it says, Mipnei shanoshim ne'osas b'hen. That's going to be a question what these words mean. It says that the women beautify themselves. Right? Rashi says the word ne'osos comes from the word hana. And what the question is going to be, what kind of hana is that exactly? We could say in general that it means some kind of a beautifying. And the question is going to be, what do they do? Maybe I'm wrong to say that's the translation. The Gemara is going to have two choices. One is more beautifying than the other. But the two choices the Gemara is going to say is either they wash themselves over there. That was the place where they shower themselves. Or the Gemara is going to say soon about adorning themselves. And the first one is considered more of a degrading thing. Not a bad thing, but that's not something where you put a mezuzah. Mezuzah we're going to see is put by a dignified living. And a place where women wash is not considered dignified. And a place where they just dress themselves and adorn themselves, perfume themselves, then that's going to be considered, yes, a dira. We'll get to the subject soon. I just wanted to get at the translation for the word ne'osos. Rashi says that the translation comes from the word hana. Where's the Rashi? Lashon hana, ne'osos lashon hana. That's just to point out that the word hana is not a Hebrew word, it's an Aramaic word. You don't find it in the Tanakh. So what kind of hana is that? What kind of hana are we talking about? So this is interesting, right? So it says that these storage houses, these Beis HaTev, Beis HaBokar, Beis HaEtzim, Beis HaTzoros, is butter because women, well, I don't have a good word to say enjoy, but we'll say the word ne'osos. Now, Rav Kana explains, my ne'osos rochotzos. Rav Kana explains, he said over the Brisa, and then he explained it, that the word ne'osos means that they wash. So the way Rabbi kind of learns the Brisa is that all these places are really chayiv in a mezuzah. If you have a storage house, a garage, a basement, whatever these things, where you put things, you store things, so it's chayiv in a mezuzah, even though you don't live there. That's called living. Having your things over there, storing your belongings, is also a woodshed, is chayiv in a mezuzah. But it says that in their times, that the women also used it to wash it. So that makes that a shemi pater. That's how Rav Kana learned. And the reader right away is going to elaborate on Rav Kana's opinion. Amalei Rav Yehuda to Rav Kana, time of the Rochot, so stomach hayov, you mean to say, according to what you learned the Brisa, that the only reason why it's pater is because it's also used for washing. Women wash over there. But if they would not, if it will be a regular storage room, so it would be chayiv. That's Rav Kana's opinion, and it's true, that's Rav Kana's opinion. But Rav Kana Yehuda has a kasha on that. For Tanya, we learned another Brisa, Refes Bokar, Patum and Amazuzah. A stable for the animals is pater from an mezuzah, and it doesn't say anything about women. It just says that he puts together a refes bakar, beisa bakar, the place where animal stays is pater from a mezuzah. So you are saying that it's chayiv in a mezuzah. According to you, there will be a contradiction. The two Brises. This is the first Brise said that it's pater from a mezuzah because women wash over there. That means only because the women are washing, but regular beisa bakar would be chayiv. This Brise says a blanket statement that a beisa bakar is pater from a mezuzah. So Rabbi therefore argues on the explanation, the parashanut, the explanation of Rav Kana. They said naosos means brochos. Rav Yehuda is going to argue and say elamai naosos miskashtos doesn't mean to wash. It means that they adorn themselves, and that's not considered a lowly thing. That's not considered a degree. I'm using the wrong word. The bar bizayon. Okay, it's a lowly thing, something not a bad thing, but something that you don't. It's not dignified. We'll call it undignified. So that was if they washed. But if they are miskashe, so on the contrary, that's something that's living. That's what living is. To do these things, to get dressed, to adorn oneself, jewelry, perfume. I don't know why they picked those rooms. It seems they're much different than nowadays. You see, the culture was much different. Nowadays, we have many rooms, and if you need a shower, you have a shower. If you need a dressing room, you need a perfuming room, whatever you want. But in those days, they used a stable if they needed an extra room to wash over there, whatever they needed. So anyway, how does the Brisa read? He goes with the assumption that the base of Bakar, base Eitzim, on itself, on default, is going to be pater. Like he says, this Brisa says, based up Refes Bakar is pater ben Amzuzah. So now he learns the Brisa like he learns the Brisa like this. Afal pi, he puts an afal pi, not mipnei. Afal pi shenashim miskashos ben peturin. That it's saying that it's pater, and it's not saying that it's pater because women wash over there. It's pater even though women adorn themselves over there. So the adorning, if anything, would be a reason to be chayiv. And it's saying that's not even enough. Since its main purpose is animal stable, so it's pater. And even though women use it sometimes for living purposes, that's not enough living purposes to be chayiv. So it comes out a big machlokas over here. According to the way Rav Kana reads the Brisa, a stable, a garage, any kind of storage room is going to be chayiv, unless women use it for undignified purposes, washing, a washroom, or the opposite is Rav Yehuda says that these kind of places, like a beis habok, all these cases, beis eitzim, are all going to be pater. And even if women use it a little bit for their purposes of adorning themselves, it's also not reason to be chayiv. So this whole subject of beisa, if we just highlight this whole subject is going to be a machlokas. Beisa teven, beisa habok, beis eitzim, beisa soros is a chayiv pater. So far, Rav Kana says that it's chayiv, unless there's another reason, another situation, and Rav Yehuda says that it's pater. Amalei Rav Kana, let's narrow line. Amalei Rav Kana, so what's your position? That even if the women use it for adorning themselves, still is going to be pater. That's how you read the Brisa. But the Brisa, there's another Brisa that says the opposite of that. You brought a Brisa against me, where I learned the Brisa. I'm going to bring a Brisa against the way you learned the Brisa. But Tanya, Refes Bakar, Patum and Amazuzah, like that was the Brisa of you that had till now. But if they do use it, if people do use it for their own purposes also, not just for the animals, so then it is chayiv in a mezuzah. So you're not any better than me. You have a Brisa against my way of learning, I have a Brisa against your way of learning. Just like you have to say that at this point is going to be a machlokes tanah. How does Rav Yehuda learn? Rav Yehuda, everybody agrees that if it's just a beis habok or if it's just used for animals, then it's pater. I say animals, it means also wood or straw, whatever it might be. That a storage room alone is pater. And then in the first Brisa it said, even if women use it a little bit for their own purposes, still is pater. And this Brisa says that if they use it for miskashos, then it's chayiv. So that's going to be machlokes. So Rav Kana says, I could learn the way I wanted to learn. And what was your kasha? Is it machlokes? Yeah, I have machlokes according to me also. That there's a machlokes if a beis habok, if this storage room is chayiv or not, and that's the machlokes. Just like you have to say, you have to come on to a machlokes also. I also say a machlokes, but it comes out that according to Rav Yehuda, the machlokes is only if the fact that the miskashtos makes it chayiv. But if it will be stam a storage room, everyone holds butter. According to Rav Kana, on a regular storage room, that will be a machlokes if it's chayiv butter. The Tanya, the third white line, this continues a brisa, which is now going to be everybody's going to have to explain. There's some machlokes going on, and each one's going to explain it according to his own opinion. Again, according to Rav Yehuda, everyone, all the Tanoim hold that a storage room is putter. Maybe there's a machlokes. There's machlokes if it's also used a little bit for human purposes and for the people purposes. And according to Rav Kana, there's a machlokes if a beis habakar, if a storage room is chayiv or not. And the Hebrew is the brisa. Then there are going to be two explanations how to read it. So we're not going to get too much more information. It's going to be reading into the brisa how each one understood. The brisa says the following. It says you should write a mezuzah on the doorposts of your house. Your house. That is yours, designated for you. The fact that it says Beisacha, your house, doesn't say Bais, it says Beisacha. So it has to be something which is designated for people. That comes to exclude that if it's not used for you, it's not it's not designated for people, but it's used for straw, cattle, wood, storage. So then it's part of mezuzah because it's not used for people. The Brisa says it's a machlokes. The Brisa says some say chayiv, some say potter. This fits very nicely. The Pashut words fit like Rav Kana that there's a machlokes about this point. A storage room is a chayiv and a mezuzah, not machlokes. But we'll see soon. You can read it two ways. They said, like they said, like an exception, that something which is degrading, an undignified use, like a restroom. A borsky is where they a tannery where they tan leathers, and it also has a bad smell. Beis HaMerchatz is a bathhouse. Beis HaTefillah, that's a place where women would immerse themselves, men or women, but it's made over there doesn't have hot water. There was cold water. Nowadays the Beis HaTefillah is also Beis HaMerchatz, but in those days the Beis HaTefillah was just the cold water, so it wasn't as hot. It didn't have as much filth as comes from a steam, from a hot bath. And Anashim Naosos band, that's the same word as well before. The word Naosos is coming up again, and again it's going to have two translations. So then it's Pater Mezuzah. That's the Brisa. The Brisa said this machlokes about a storage room, all these kind of storage rooms, and that's a machlokes. And then it says that these things that are undignified, so then Pater. And it seems to say that even those rooms that might be chayiv, if it has an undignified use, so then it's going to be Pater. And now the Gemara says the brisa is open to all explanations. It's not such a clear brisa. Rav Kana Matayis Tamei, Rav Yehuda Matayis Tamei. Each Amora can explain the brisa the way he understands. Rav Kana Matayis Tamei, he's easier, and the brisa he seems to be the simple pshat. Rav Kana Matayis Tamei, Rav Kana is going to explain the brisa the way he understands. What did he understand? That there's machlokes if a storage room is chayiv in mezuzah, and if it's rochasos, if the women wash over there in a way that is not dignified, so then it's pater. How does it fit into the brisa? Beisacha, Beisham Yuchlecha, that's what the Brisa starts off. That the fact that it says your house, it has to be something which is designated for people. Prat Beisa Tevin, Beisa Bakal, Beisa Esim, Beisa Sora, Sheptum, and Amazuzah, Bestam. The Yesh Mechayim, Bestam. So far it's talking about Stam. That's very nice. And the Brisa doesn't talk about any other use that's it's used for. Not that it has an extra use. It just says a storage room. Tanakama says it's butter because it's not used for people. And some say that it's chayiv, that's also good enough to be chayiv. Then the Brisa continues. That was that word we're looking for. Rav Kana is going to explain that word nosos means that they wash, and that's considered an undignified use. What does the Brisa say according to this reading? That if it's a regular storage room or animal room, cattle room, so that is machlokes if it's chayiv pater, which Rav Kana gave in that it's machlokes, and here you see machlokes. And if it's something which is also used for an undignified purpose, that's how Rashi explains that this is the same room, these same rooms which are also used as a Beis HaKisei or a Beis HaBorsky or Merchatz, that women also wash over there, so then it's pater. So that's how kind of sees the Brisa, very good the way that's how we learn. That as far as a room that's not used for people, it's used for animals or for objects, so then it's a machlokis. And if it's used in an undignified manner of women washing over there, then everybody else that is pater. Before the Gemara goes on to the other way of reading it, Yachi Hainu Merchatz. The Gemara doesn't have difficulty in how to read the Brisa. The Brisa says, if you go to this Brisa one line up, it says Beis HaKisei, Beis HaBorsky, Beis HaMerchatz, Beis HaTefillah, Shemash Nosos Ben. If Nashim Nosus Ben means Rochetzos, so it says the same thing twice. Based on Merchas, it's a bathhouse, the same thing as Rochetz. Rochetz. That both it says two times the same example of a place which is used to wash. It means also usually hot water. So is it not a redundant if you say that Nosos means Rochetzos? Yachianu Merchas. The answer is Ashmin and Merchas the Rabbah, Ashmin and Merchas the Yachid. The reason why he says it two times is because the first base of Merchas is a public bathhouse. And then when it says Nashim Nosos Ben Rochetzos, that means that it's a private room that they have stable nearby in their house or a woodshed, and when they need to, they wash over there. So there's a chiddush in saying both a public bathhouse and a private bathhouse. That a public bathhouse has much more filth. The word zuama is filth. Sometimes it seems it has to do with the hevel, with the hot air when they heat up a merchas. So many people come and there's hot air, so it becomes filthy and disgusting. But a private bathhouse is not so much. So you might think that that's not disgusting and it should be chayiv in a mezuzah. For mashmalon, that even that is also part of a mezuzah. This is all. Agav, Rashi saw just a side point. Rashi says when he talks about the Nashim Rochetzos, what's the reason why it should be a potter? Why is that called undignified? Rashi says because they stand there naked when they're washing. And the Gemara doesn't seem to say that. The Gemara seems to say something about the filth. If it will be just because they're standing naked, there's no difference if it's one or many. But the Gemara talks about the whole time about hevel. I don't know how Rashi puts this prat into the Gemara. But the Gemara says that there's zuama, and that causes the disgust. And the way of Kana learns the brat. The way of Kana learns the brisa is that there's a machlokes tanam if a storage house for animals or for objects is chayv in a mezuzah, but if it's also used for something undignified, even for a private bathhouse or a mikvah, so then also it's a pater. Then it's pater according to everybody. This all was Rav Kana's way of reading. Now we're in the fourth white line, Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda also, he doesn't think that he's disproving about his brisa. He could explain the brisa also, a little bit of a hurdle, but he could explain the brisa also. Rav Yehuda say that everybody holds that a storage house or an animal house is going to be pater. If anything, there's a machlokes about if it's also used a little bit by people, nashim miskashtos, but maybe it's a reason to be chayiv. So he's going to put that into the brisa. Rav Yehuda matas tamei hachi katani. He's going to learn the brisa at the beginning goes the same. Beisecha means beischam yuchad lecha, only if it's designated for you. Pater beisa teven lo beisa bokar beisa eitzim beisa otzara sheptum and amezuzah. And then he puts in this point. This is put in over here. Afilu miskashtos. The yesh mechayvin the miskashtos. The Brisa says some kind of machlokes, yesh mechayvin, but he says that the machlokes is only when it's also used a little bit by people. That if it would only be used for animals or for objects, bistam, tiviyah kol pater. That everybody would agree about that. The only machlokes in the Brisa is only when it's also used a little bit by people. And that, some say chayiv, some say pater. But if it would be only used, and that's what Yehuda gave into before. Yehuda said, miskashos tanoi. That was what, on the second middle line over here, miskashos tanoi. That even Yehuda had to give into that. So he gave into that. That is machlokes if it's used a little bit by people, if it's chayiv or not. But if it would not be used by people, only by animals or objects, then everyone would read that it's pater. That's Rav Yehuda's way of reading the brisa. That it should fit with his opinion. The brisa continued. This also is Rav Yehuda continuing to explain the brisa how he's going to read it. This is how he reads into it. When it says nashim neosos, he says it means miskashtos, and here he's going to say that if it has these degrading things, and he doesn't put rochazos. He says nosos means miskashtos, and now he's saying that if it's not, what we said till now, it's not a beis boka beis eitzim, but it's a disgusting place like a beis akise, beis borski, a merchas, beis tefila, then it's pater from mezuzah, even though it's a bit used by women. Then still it's pater from mezuzah because it's very disgusting. It could be that what did he say before? According to his reading, the Brisa had a machlokes. Yesh miskashtos. Miskashtos is it enough to be mechayev a storage room or a room for animals? Is that enough? The fact that the miskashtos. So the Brisa says that a machlokes, but now the Brisa says the point of his reading, the Brisa ends off there. But if we mamash a disgusting thing, not just a pator because it's a storage room, but it's pator because it's a disgusting place. A beis akise, beis borski. So then everybody agrees that even if it's miskashtos, that's not enough to make it chayiv. So the Gemara got through the Brisa, and we didn't knock anybody off so far. We go back to the beginning. We have machlokes of Kana and how to read the Brisa. The big issue was the base of Mercha, base of Eitzim, base of Bokar, base of Eitzim. All these things which are storage for objects of animals. Is it chayiv or not? According to Yehuda, it's pater, and according to Kana, it's a machlokes. Tanon. The Gemara continues on second one line up from the bottom of the Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda is taking the position still, he didn't give up, that if it's only a storage room of animals, then it is pater. If anything, the discussion is going to be miskashtos. If the fact that maybe people use it a little bit doesn't make it chayiv. But without that factor, it's just a storage room, everyone holds pater. You don't want to give in to anybody else. He says nobody holds that it's chayiv. Rav Kahana said it's machlokes tanon. Rav Yehuda says nobody holds that it's chayiv. So the Gemara is going to knock him off by showing there's a brisa that says somebody says chayiv. But Tani, we learned in the brisa b'sharecha, which is similar to the brisa we had on the top. So far it's the same. There are all kinds of gates that come into a house or a courtyard or a city or maybe even a country are all chayiv in mezuzah. Here's the refes. Here's it. Refes is a stable for animals. Lulin is a chicken coop. Matbein is a base of a place where you have a haystack, places for storing hay. Also storehouses like I had before, base Osros. So here it says, here you have it. That it said this bottom line. It says that all kinds of animals storage and object storage is chayiv b'mezuzah. Rav Yehuda said there's no such opinion. He didn't have such an opinion. And here the Brisa has such an opinion. And so with Rav Kahana is okay. He says, machlokes tanon. This time it holds chayiv. Another time it held before pater. We even had a Brisa that had both opinions, chayiv and pater. So this is going to be the kasha on Rav Yehuda. Before we finish the kasha, we could have stopped here for the kasha on Rav Yehuda, but the more we just finish off the price, we'll have some more information. How about if it's a beis shar? Beis shar we didn't have yet. We had the case of in the beginning of today's daf, we had a gate of a courtyard that has also a house in it, like the Lishkas Bahedrin. But now we're talking about a beis shar. Beis shar means the entrance room, the room that goes into, like a vestibule going into the house. That's called the beis shar. It's a small room on itself. Nobody lives over there, but it's an entrance way to go into the house. Is that chayiv? Yesterday I mentioned it at the end of the year about a sukkah, that there's a sukkah of a beis shar. In our Gemara alone, this says beis shar is pater. So what I said yesterday it's not going to appear in our Gemara. But the Mishonim ask a contradiction. The other Gemara say that the beis shar is chayiv. So what I said is the halacha. But as far as the Gemara goes here, it says you might think beis shar d'achsadron pesach sadi chayiv. A beis shar is again the vestibule going into the house, a small room going into a house. There's no one lives over there, but it's an entrance into a house. Achsadra, Rashi seems to say some kind of a pergola that's in front of the house. Mepeset has walls. Also, a question: how many walls? Mepeset seems to be the walkway, the landing that when you go up steps to go to a house that has many rooms, many houses. So you go to a landing, and from there you go on to into the houses. So that's called a mepeset. And the Gemara times nowadays they call it mepeset a balcony. It's probably not the same word as the Gemara uses, not exactly. But anyway, no one lives over there. These points that no one lives in the beis shar, no one lives in the Achsadra, no one lives in the mepeset. The fact that it says house, it has to be house of living. And these things no one lives over there, so it's pater. Just to point out, as far as the halacha goes, the Rishonim ask a kasha that other Gemaras, Taisvus and Amar Aleph asked the kasha, just to mention it over here. Here's the Taisvus and Amar Aleph, Yochashal Ma'abra Afishar, Mashma the beis shar, Pater Mena Mezuzah Tema, because in Menachos it says that the beis shar is chayiv. So they ask, and also in Sukkah, so the Rishonim ask a kasha, sometimes the beis shar is chayiv. But in our Gemara, the text says beferish that a beis shar is pater, because it says Bais, it has to be for living, it's not living. The Bais continues a few more pturim. A third line, you might think that these places, even though they're used for disgusting reasons, lowly purposes, but you might think that's chayiv in a mezuzah. So it says no. It has to be dignified. A house is first of all used for living. It's also used for dignified living. So these things are not dignified. That's why these things are part of a bathroom, a bathhouse, all these things, what we call a toilet, a bathhouse. All these things are pater from mezuzah. The third thing the Brisa says, this could have been the beginning of the sugya, that the Beis Hamikdash. You might think that Arabayas and chambers over there and the courtyard should be chayiv in mezuzah. So it says three aspects that you learn out from the word bias. It has to be for living, dira, it has to be kavod, and it has to be chol. Your mundane, dignified living. That's what the chayiv in mezuzah. So if it's missing any of those three conditions, it's not chayiv in mezuzah. All this was bonuses, but what do we want? At the beginning of the Brisa, before all this, it said that somebody holds that a storehouse is chayiv in mezuzah. Animal, refes, lulin, matrin is chayiv in mezuzah. Rav Yehuda said there's no such opinion. So the Gemara ends off. You're right. Tiyufta. Here's the Gemara. Tiyufta. That's the end. So we disproved Rav Yehuda. We disproved them because here it says there is a mandam, but it says that storehouse is chayv in a mezuzah. So that's the maskana, which maskana means that according to Rav Kana, it's a machlokes. Rav Kana says, and he's proven right, there's a machlokes tanoim if a storehouse, either for objects or for animals, is chayv in a mezuzah or not, and not like Rabbi Yehuda says everybody holds that as pater, and therefore in the Shulchan Aruch it says you do put on a mezuzah. It says to put on without a bracha, probably because of this reason, the fact that it's a machlokes tanoim, we don't have a hachra, so you put on a mezuzah but without a bracha. So this applies to us many cases. In a meklat, which is used for storage, people have machsanim. We don't have too many animals in our region, but of course there are places where they have animals. So it comes out that these places should be chayv in a mezuzah without a bracha because machlokes tanoim. If that's good, we start the next sugya. Tani Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda kamei de Rava. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda said over the following brisa. The brisa says he said it over to Rava. Shisha shom patur min mezuzah. There are 6 gateways that are patur from a mezuzah, even though a gateway is chayv. There are 6 that are patur. Not dafka gate. It could be also the entrance into these houses, into these rooms. And based on Tevan, based on Bokar, based on Eitzim, based on Tzor. That's all we have already before. We're familiar. There's a machlokes. Some hold that as patur, some hold that as chayv. But this brisa says that's patur. Okay with that. So we have 4 already. Then it says shah madi, a median gate, which Rashi says in me, that means that they made a archway. The gateways were made in an arch-like shape, not a rectangle, but a arch. And the Gemara's going to talk about that soon. Sham shein makura, if it's not roofed, and this is machlokes in the Rishonim, what unroofed way means. It means that the room has no roof on it. It's the gateway to a room which has no roof. What does it mean? That the gate itself doesn't have a lintel. It has 2 doorposts, but it doesn't have a lintel. So those are the 2 pshatim about this brisa. It says that it's patur from the mezuzah. And also, if it's a gateway which is not 10 tefachim high, the gateway, the doorway has to be at least 10 tefachim high in order to be considered a gate. So, as far as the first 4 things that he says, we had a machlokes about it. That we just said machlokes how you paskin. So machlokes what we should do. So we put a mezuzah without a bracha, and then shah madi, which is going to be a sugya about an archway, and no roof. Okay, there's also even no roof on the room, or no roof on the lintel of the doorway, and if it's not 10 tefachim high. But the most problem is that it says 7 things. There are 7 things listed over here, and the brisa started off shisha sharim, 6, and then there's a list of 7. Amalei. So Rabbi said to Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Pasachta b'shisha, pasachta b'shiva. He started off 6, and then said 7. He changed say number 6, and then you say 7 things. Amalei shalamadi tanoi. The issue of the median gate, which means the archway, that's machlokes tanoim. In this brisa alone, it started off saying that only 6 are patur, but the 7th one is going to be chayav. The muddy one would be chayav, and then the other Tana said no, that it's also patur. What's the machlokes about? The Tanya kippah. So I'm going to say the Gemara the way Rashi learns. Just to point out before we start that the Rambam argues, and we pass most of the really like the Rambam. So I'll first say the Gemara according to Rashi. Rashi says that let's give Akdama. The Rashi holds the fact that the doorway is arched, it's around the doorway, that's not a reason to be patur. Around the archway is also high. If you get up a big archway that's round, that's not a reason to be patur. The whole issue the Gemara is going to have is that you have to have 10 by 4. That a minimum door that's considered a doorway has to be 10 by 4. 10 tefachim high, 4 tefachim wide. Less than that is not considered approachable. It's not considered a doorway. It's not considered a pathway. And the whole issue is going to be that when you have the archway in a way that it takes away from the 10 by 4. If it will be straight up, you'd have 10 by 4. Here, there's going to be some question if it's considered 10 by 4 or not because of the archway, and that's going to be a machlokes. And the Rambam is going to say different. We'll get to that after the Gemara, but just learn the Gemara the way Rashi explains. The time we learned that the brisa kippah, an archway. Not that the whole room is a kippah, but the door is an archway. Rav Meir Mechayiv Mezuzah v'Chachamim Potrin. Rav Meir says Chayiv v'Chachamim say patur. The Shavim sheyesh b'Ragla Asara shechayaves b'Mezuzah. Everyone agrees that if the feet have 10 tefachim, it will be chayav in mezuzah. So just to say the Gemara outside before we see it inside. If anybody has a diagram, I'm happy to accept it. I didn't put one on, but
I have 3. I'm not sure. I do have 3.
Okay.
3 different ones. So what are we looking for first? We're looking for.
Yeah, whatever you put, we'll see how it goes. If you can work with that, anything visual.
Okay. Let me find you here. Share screen. Or let's start with this one, which uses. Okay.
Okay, so this should probably be enough for everything, but we'll see whatever else is coming up. If you have 10 Tvachim high and 4 Tvachim wide, and let's say this is already 10 Tvachim. Here they showed you that this is 10 Tvachim, and it's a 4 Tvachim wide. At this point, this is enough. Point to Rashi, this is the kosher. This is higher than kosher. It's higher than the mezuzah because it has 10 by 4, and I don't care the fact that it rounds at the time. That's not an issue. So here you have it, 10 by 4. If you don't have 10 by 4, then it's more lenient. Not higher than the mezuzah. The point, the more is going to say that if you have 3 Tvachim, that is, oh, here you number the 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you number then the first 3 Tvachim, it has a width of 4, but then it starts curving in a way that you don't have any more. Once you go higher than 3 Tvachim, you don't have any more a width of 4. So then that's going to be the machlokes. That's going to be an issue. Do you have any other diagrams? We can see other diagrams also.
Yeah, this one.
Here that you have the 3 Tvachim. This is going to be the machlokes case. That it gets to a height of 10. In the center, it goes to a height of 10.
It goes to a height of 10, yeah.
But the width
It's narrowing off, yeah.
The width of 4 Tvachim is only when it's to the 3 Tvachim height. That's going to be a machlokes. This is going to be a machlokes case, and I'm going to say it already now that your man says since you have enough, if you be able to chisel it out, that you have already the outline. The fact that it's 3 Tvachim high, that starts the outline, and also the fact that the middle goes till 10 Tvachim high, even though it's not 4 Tvachim wide, but it at least gives you the outline. And we can use our imagination and imaginarily cut out the part that's blocking the entrance, and that's good enough. Even though you did not yet chisel away the part that's blocking the 10 by 4, it's chayv in a mezuzah. And they're going to say, don't say that till you knock it out. It's not chayv in a mezuzah because it's not 10 by 4. Is there anything else? We'll also see if there's.
Yeah, the last one I have is where it's not good because it's
Not 10 Tvachim high.
it's not 4. It's not 4.
The case, this is.
It's not 4 wide for 3.
Even before I guess the 3, it's not 4 anymore. Or if it wouldn't make it the 10 Tvachim high, if the middle wouldn't be 10 Tvachim high at all, even less than 4 Tvachim wide, but it didn't make it to a height of 10 Tvachim at any place, the outline is not cut out for you. It has to be that the outline is at least the beginning of an outline. Okay, thank you. That helped very much. Okay, this is the machlokes case. Okay, so we'll see the Gemara inside. Amar Abaye. Everybody agrees that even though it's 10 Tvachim high, but you don't have a width of 4, even for the first 3 Tvachim. The problem with Rashi, not the problem, the difficulty in Rashi's trying is that there's a lot of 4s being put in that the Gemara doesn't say. But that's what Rashi reads the Gemara. 10 Tvachim high.
I'm sorry. Did the Rebbe read from Kippah, Rebbe Meir, in the inside? Kippah, a little higher.
Again, Kippah, Reb Meir Machayim b'mezuzah v'chacham potrin. Kippah, archway, Reb Meir says Chayim v'chacham stay potter. B'shavim, Shem yesh b'ragel asar v'shachar v'mezuzah. And everybody agrees that if the feet of this archway have 10 Tvachim, that is Chayim in mezuzah. That's what the Brisa said. And now the Gemara is going to explain. Amar Abaye. You have to have a height of 10. Amar Abaye. The kol yalma gavoa yud ve'en b'ragel gimel v'lav klumi. Everybody agrees that even though it's 10 Tvachim high, means that this archway gets to a height of 10 Tvachim, but you don't even have 3 Tvachim, which are 4 Tvachim wide. You have to stick that in. The legs, means the beginning, the bottom of the archway, don't even have 3 Tvachim, where there's a width of 4 Tvachim opening. That's not good. Rebbe says it's not good. You don't even have the beginning of the outline. Inami, another case where there's no machlokes, yesh b'ragel gimel ve'en gavoa yud. You have 3 Tvachim high with a width of 4 Tvachim, but it doesn't get in any place to a height of 10. Also lav klumi. That's nothing. Rebbe wouldn't say anything in that case, but you have to have at least the outline that it gets to a height of 10 in some place, and also that it has a beginning, that it was 3 Tvachim high at least, that was a distance, a width of 4 Tvachim. Then there's going to be an issue where Meir might say it's kosher. But if you're missing one of these 2 things, it's surely nothing. The machlokes is going to be that it does get to a height of 10 in the middle, and there are 3 Tvachim where there's a distance, there's a width of 4 Tvachim opening, The ein barach b'dalim, but these words means that it's not 4 tefachim wide as you go higher. As you go higher than 3 tefachim, but then it narrows and it doesn't come to it's not the width of 4 anymore. But you do have enough wall. There's wall over there on the side that you'd be able to chisel it out and make it completed to become 10 by 4. On that, Rabbi Meir says it's kosher. Rabbi Meir says you can say that we look imaginary as if we chiseled it out in order to complete the shear of 10 by 4, and the Rabbanan say that you don't. We don't pass them like Rabbi Meir, pass like Rabbanan in Chokim Hashlam, so you're not chayv in the mezuzah until it's 10 by 4. So this is Rashi's opinion that the whole issue is only Chokim Hashlam, and there's no issue at all about being a rounded archway. That's not a reason to be bothered. The whole issue is to have 10 by 4. The Rambam says that there's an issue of not the 4 issue. The issue is that a rounded archway is not chayv in mezuzah. A rounded archway is not chayv in mezuzah only if you have a beginning. If you have 10 tefachim of the legs that start straight, or at least 3 tefachim according to Rabbi Meir. But if you don't even have, and we're going according to Rabbanan, that you have to have 10 tefachim. So according to the Rambam, even if you have a huge archway that's much bigger than 10 by 4, but you don't have straight doorposts, everything is just curved, it wouldn't be chayv in a mezuzah. And the Shulchan brings down the Rambam. So if you don't have a 10 tefachim straight doorpost before it starts curving, the Rambam will say not to put a mezuzah. Or not show you not a broch, you're not chayv in a mezuzah. Rashi will say yes, because it's 10 by 4. According to the Rambam, he doesn't put the 4 into the Gemara, so he says that any curved archway is not chayv, only if it has straight legs of at least 10 tefachim. Okay, if that's good, we go on to the next Gemara. I mentioned the Rambam because that's how we paskin. So if there are archways, so if the whole, usually archways are not like that. Usually our archways, they do have 10 tefachim straight before it starts curving. So usually we chayv, but there might be archways, big mansions and stuff like that. They might have that it starts curving before it gets to 10 tefachim height. So wouldn't be chayv in a mezuzah according to the Rambam. Tanu Rabbanan, new sugya, also about mezuzah. Tanu Rabbanan, Beis HaKnesses, Beis HaIsha, Beis HaShutfin chayv mezuzah. So far it says that the shul is chayv. Yesterday we had earlier today that a Beis HaKnesses is only chayv if it has a shomer over there. I think it's going to be tomorrow's sugya. So today we're not going to concentrate on that. It's going to talk about more about the rest of the brisa, which is a woman's house and the partnership house. The whole Gemara we'll learn today is only going to be about the second and third cases, not about the Beis HaKnesses. We'll come to that more tomorrow. So this brisa says that a shul, a woman's house, that she owns the house, she lives in the house by herself, only women, or Beis HaShutfin, a partnership, 2 people live in the house, chayv in mezuzah. And then what's the shita? Why not? Why shouldn't it be chayv in mezuzah? That it says your house is speaking in the masculine, only maybe a man. The fact that it says beisacha is not man, and also not the plural, it says only in singular. You might think that a woman is part from mezuzah, and that the partners are part from mezuzah, kamashmalan dechayim. So then the Gemara says, okay, but now you told me a pasuk. Maybe you're right. Maybe the pasuk means that they are pater. The pasuk says when you put on a mezuzah, it says in order that your days should increase and the days of your sons. So it can't be it's only for men. It's for women also. Women also need life, and the mezuzah brings life. So women also surely fine. So what do you do with the pasuk that says beisacha, which might have been darshan below beisav, below batehem? Ella beisacha lamli. What do you do with this drasha? The answer is beisacha is darshan biyascha, like entrance. You put in an aleph. Biyascha means to come in. Bais means a house. Biya means to come in. And what's the point to say? That the side you put the mezuzah on is going to be the right side of your entrance, the right side of the entrance, not the right side of the exit, the right side of the entrance. When a person walks, so most people they put out the same way, but most people are righties with the right hand, but most are righties with the right foot. When you start walking, you usually walk with your left first, and therefore it's another way of saying that the mezuzah goes on the right side of the entrance. So what we learned so far, that women and shutfin are chayiv, and the pasuk that says biyascha says you put it on the right side of the entrance. Tani the another brisa. This is not our subject, but once we spoke about the whole same things, Beis HaKnesses and also partners and also house of women, we spoke about mezuzah. This brisa talks about nigoim, but in Parashas Mitzvah it talks about a house that has a saras on it, a bayis, the nasati nega saras b'beis esachuz aschem, and the house becomes tameh, and you have to take away the stones. Sometimes you have to break down the whole house till it comes back. So some houses are not susceptible to this kind of tumas nigoim, some houses are. Here it says that shul and a woman of a house of partners and a house of women is susceptible to tumas nigoim. Pshita, why not? It's a house. It says that when it talks about going to the Kohen to find out if he should come and check out if the house is a nega or not. It says he who owns the house should come, and it talks about in masculine singular. He who the house belongs to him should come. So we might dash it lo v'lo la. You might say dafka him and not her, him and not them, and you might say that their house or her house is not susceptible to negon. So Kamash V'lon, that's what the Bryce had to say, that it is susceptible to negon. The question is, maybe you're right. Once you brought a pasuk, maybe you're right that it's not susceptible. Amar Kro, the base says achuz aschem. When the pasuk talks about negon, it says in general, I'll make it in the house of your land, and it doesn't say beiso, beischa. It says bias. So any kind of a house. So they're also included. As what I do with the Russia now. So why does it say da kashalo bias? Why does it say the word lo? Misham yachad beiso lo. Who is going to be vulnerable to negoyim? A person who deserves it because of his misconduct. What's the misconduct? That he keeps his house to himself. This is the avera, so to speak, that because of that avera, the nega might come. That he keeps his house to himself. Ashalabah is the person who keeps his house to himself. How does he keep his house to himself? That he doesn't lend things. This is the famous Rashi brings it down, that a person who doesn't lend his things out, Hashem is going to bring a nega, and then it's going to, as part the Gemara is going to say, part of the process is to take everything out of the house when the coin comes, before he comes to declare it's tummy or not. So he says, take everything out in case it's going to be tummy. Not everything should become, not all the contents will become tummy. And then when he takes everything out, the movers come and start bringing everything onto the sidewalk outside, and everybody sees what he has. You told me you don't have a hammer, you don't have a wrench, you don't have an ironing board. All of a sudden you have everything, you have a drill. So that's going to be the part of the punishment or the embarrassment that he kept his house to himself. Now we see that it's not that he was sorry, he was stingy. So that's the Gemara that says, the person who designates his house for himself. He doesn't want to lend his belongings. He says that I don't have. The neighbor asked him for a drill. He says I don't have. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to publicize him when he's going to have to empty out his house. So the pasuk means now that's not vulnerable because of the owner. It's not vulnerable because the owner didn't do anything wrong. That comes to exclude someone who does lend out his things to people. He's not going to have a nega on his house. That's the end of the Gemara for today. So just to sum up the main halachas that we learned. First, we just finished off the Parhedrin, Machlokes, if Dira Balkocha, you came out like Rabbanan, Dira Balkocha, Shmodira, even according to Yehuda, you'd make Xer and say that Shani can also have a mezuzah for the Chashash, they shouldn't think that is in jail. And then the Gemara said that all kinds of Sharim are chayiv. The Gemara spoke about the Ptor, if something's only for support, Chizuk, that's not considered a gateway, it's only supporting the structure. A Sakana, if it's dangerous to check the mezuzah or to put a mezuzah, so then you put it also. The next Gemara spoke about base of Baka, base and base on source, all kinds of storage for objects or for animals comes out in the Maskana. If Kana was right, there's Machlokes Tanoim. And if it's used in a undignified way, like when we wash over there, so then it's part to everybody. And in the halacha, I think that it says that therefore on these places, on storage places, you should put a mezuzah without a bracha. The Brisa Agav said 3 bonuses over here. That has to be the word bias means it should be a dira, kavod, and koda, and chol. That a mundane, dignified living, that's what's chayiv in mezuzah. But if it's not mundane, if it's kodesh, it's not chayiv in mezuzah. And if it's not dignified, it's not chayiv in mezuzah. And if it's not living places like a beishah, sajam apis, it's part of a mezuzah. But we just pointed out there are some beishah that is chayiv in mezuzah, and that's a different sukkah to compare the two sukkahs here and in Menachos. The Brisa said that they are ptum for a sukkah from mezuzah, which some of them we just spoke about, 4 out of the 7. But then there's also 2 things they wanted to talk about yet. Well, we did talk about that if it's not 10 tefachim high, surely it's not a doorway. It has to be minimum 10 tefachim high. Also, in a makura, that if the house is not roofed or if the gateway is not roofed, so it's not chayv in a mezuzah. You have that a lot of times when you have entrances into a courtyard, but you only have a gate without any lintel. So it says not chayv in a mezuzah. And a courtyard usually doesn't have a roof, but a house that doesn't have a roof is not chayv in a mezuzah. And as far as Sha'ar Madi, which means a kippah, means an archway, so the word comes out that it's machlokes, and everyone that's the point that the Rambam says that archway might be putter, but it has to have at least straight legs of 10 tefachim. If it will be 3 tefachim, but maybe would hold as high because chalkam hashta, but the one say don't say that. You have to have 10 tefachim of a straight doorpost before it arches. they do read on Rashi also that says it's chayiv as long as it's 10/4, and maybe they'll say put a mezuzah without a bracha because of Rashi Shita. But according to the Rambam, if it doesn't have 10 tefachim before it starts curving, it wouldn't be chayiv in a mezuzah. As far as Chokim Hashtam, we don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. We don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda says Chokim Hashtam. We pass and you don't say Chokim Hashtam. The next thing which we just learn now is that a house of a woman is chayiv, and that of shufin also is chayiv in a mezuzah. You might think that there's a drasha that says not like that, but that's wrong. It says it gives life, and everyone needs life. They're chayiv in a mezuzah. But we do learn out from the word beisacha that it's the right side of the entrance. That's where you put the mezuzah. And the next one, as a tangent, it brought out that the Beis HaShut and Beis HaIsha is also the time it's vulnerable to Negam. Don't make the drasha wrong. Don't say Beischa, Lashalo Abayis. Don't say that it means that a woman and Shutfin are not vulnerable to Negi Abayit, but they are. But the drasha that's coming to tell you that the punishment for the Avera of keeping one's house to himself, that might be a Negas Aras. So a person should let these things out, and then he'll be safe from Negi Batim. Okay, Yashikach, everybody. So tomorrow, Bez Hashem, is Friday. Our regular schedule is 10 to 11. Maybe next week we'll start maybe 11 to make it uniform the whole week. We'll be starting 11 o'clock, but at least for tomorrow, we'll keep it in to tell anybody. So maybe just to keep it the same for this week, the 10 to 11. And Bez Hashem Sunday will start at 11 even during the whole week. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks so much. Have a good job.
Thank you. Have a good job, everybody. Thank you. Tomorrow. Yes,
Rabbi, where did you end up? What line from the bottom? I'm sorry.
Okay, let's put it up again.
Rabbi, how far from the bottom did you end up? Fourth line from the bottom. I'm sorry, where did you end up? The last
here,
word
the
in the
The word lachirim is the last word. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. The fourth word. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kaltev. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem. Everything is wonderful.
Wow, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Where are you staying? In the Beit Shemesh?
I'm actually on a yishuv called Nahum.
Nahum? Is that it's in the Beit Shemesh area?
Yeah, you can see Beit Shemesh. It's just before it.
Very nice, very nice. You know people over there?
I'm meeting people. It's a nice Yemenite community.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Wow, very nice. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So the davening is much different and nice.
Okay.
I get the whole experience.
How many people are there?
Praying or on the yishuv?
On the issue.
I don't know. It's not so big.
Mm.
I would say 50, 60 families, maybe.
And by the davening, how many? By the prayers, how many?
They have a good handful. I mean, 20, something like that, 15, 20.
Probably very, very tranquil living over there.
Oh, yeah. It's very nice. I think it's, Baruch Hashem, it's, during this time period, I think it's, it's good. I think it's good for me.
And what do they produce over there on the issue?
They don't really, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily, a lot of them are working. I don't think they necessarily produce so much, but there's a lot of lemons, and next door there's a lot of greens being done. So I'm not exactly sure. I know that they also have a chicken, they have some chicken, a lot of chickens over here. They have a big fat chicken eggs maybe.
So I'm sure you're eating healthy.
I'm definitely not eating eggs, and I am for sure eating healthy. I have a lot of soups, and thank God. That's why I'm here. Is we're trying to create something in that realm, hopefully.
Okay, very good. You're bordering by somebody, or you have your own place?
I have my own room. We had a bigger place, but it's whatever. It's all working out. Whatever's Hashem is happening, it's happening. But originally we were starting a retreat area for someone who could, kind of go through a detox